Join me now from New York City, founder of Geltrude and Company, Dan Geltrude. Dan, thank you so much for joining me. Dan, who would think that an April Fool's joke would land them in some hot water like this? Although it was quite elaborate and well put together. And I will say, I really do hate April Fool's jokes. So luckily, no one did one to me this year.
Well, I hate them too, Stephanie, and I really hate them when you're talking about public companies and they think this is a good idea. Whoever was behind this bonehead prank needs to be fired. That's to start with. And it may be multiple levels because, as you said, this was a part of a campaign that they were actually doing, going all the way up to their American CEO or the CEO of U.S. operations, Scott Keogh. He was aware of this, and he's trying to take on the responsibility. But you have a public company, you come out with something like this, the price of the stock rises by 12%. I believe an investigation is warranted, and there should be some action by the SEC, in spite of the fact may not have been intentional, and therefore not fraudulent. It was a terrible thing to do.
So there is question whether or not it was intentional to do this. I don't know. I mean, I see it as a way that they were trying to get like media attention for like a cute April Fool's joke. And from the outside, to me, it looks like it was just a joke gone wrong.
It would seem that way, Stephanie. But listen, anytime you're talking about stock price being impacted by something a company does, especially a public announcement, you have to look at what the intention was here, because if it was not the right intention, that is the basis for fraud and stock manipulation. So they're going to have their hands full with this. No question about it.
Definitely. We'll be keeping a close eye on that, and hopefully we'll have you on again to talk about it. So this report comes as no surprise. The wealthiest Americans continue to get wealthy during the pandemic. No surprise, because the government's dictating who can run a business and who can't. And so wealthiest Americans, they have $195 billion more in their pockets collectively. Must be nice.
Well, it certainly is, but you're bringing up a good point in that the government is an active participant in having this happen. How so? Well, number one, keeping interest rates very low as they are pushing people to invest in the stock market, particularly in stocks like big tech, which obviously is owned and controlled by the wealthiest people in the world. On top of that, this stimulus that just keeps coming is also fueling the stock market. So the people who have been getting wealthy in this are the ultra billionaires involved in big tech, right? They're the ones really making out, and rightly so, but the government is part of this. And that's the irony of this whole thing. It's those in Washington who complain about the rich making them richer.
Exactly. And it seems like the rich don't have a lot of complaints about the pandemic in general. They all live in their mansions and they can fly private, and they're living life the great way right now. Meantime, everyone else is suffering. So it's really unfortunate. So Biden's new spending plan could give workers up to $4,000 a month in paid leave. Who's going to pay for all this if this actually goes through?
Well, let's see. The rich. Aren't they going to pay for everything? Look, this is another, Stephanie, look, this is another one of those plans by the government to incentivize people to stay home. Now, the concept of trying to help people who are really in trouble, I understand. I agree with the government needs to help those types of people. But when you start to put these plans in place where you're going to pay up to $4,000 a month, capped at 3 months, for people to be able to stay home, to take care of people, and they're not feeling well. These types of programs always get abused, and it ends up as another one of these plans where the government just tax and spends with no limitations at all. I think if they're going to try to do something like this, you have to have some checks and balances, not just hand out money for people not to work.
Yeah. So apparently it would cost $225 billion, and that's under the American Families Plan. So as you're right, it's like they keep wanting people to stay home and not get back to work. And a complaint that I've heard from so many small business owners in different areas, they're saying that they can't even find workers. I mean, they're like begging people to just apply for a job. I saw a headline, I don't know if we talked about it on the show last week, but even like a McDonald's was offering people $50 just to apply for a job. It's total madness. Anyways, Dan, we're going to leave it here. Thank you.
Thank you, Stephanie.
Of course. Coming up next, the